truly don't believe that he would join the coalition because it's so strong already. He's a bit younger than they are, and you know, they've all come from a pride, and 5 is quite a lot anyway. So I think the chances of them accepting a totally strange male are slim to negligible. Again, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. Nothing is impossible out here. So would the Salatis and Matimbas join up? Again, I'd say it's even more impossible than Junior joining the Birminghams, but I'd say both are highly unlikely. Are they totally impossible? No, I don't think they're totally impossible at all. The most likely scenario for Junior is that he will go off on his own and find some other nomads who aren't yet in the throes of trying to take over a territory. If he doesn't do that, he's going to either have to become the biggest lion in the history of the Sabi Sands if he wants to take over a territory, or he's going to have to disappear and live as a nomad for a long time and try and find another nomad that is the same. And that's certainly not unheard of. Lions do form coalitions with each other, but at the moment there seem to be so many coalitions around here that I don't think he's going to join an already existing successful one. But, so there are 2 males called the, I've got to get this right now, there are 2 males called the Sparta, not the Sparta males, the Styx males, who are just a little bit older than Junior is. They're about 4 years older. They don't seem to be trying to take a territory yet. They're knocking about here. They come from the Styx pride, sons of the Matimbas, so they are actually related to Junior. Now the chances of him forming a coalition with them, I would say, are much higher than were he to form than the chances of him forming a coalition, say, with the Birminghams. So we haven't found any further tracks around here, of course. Scott and Steph and Jeandré are around here trying to find the tracks. I certainly didn't see any on the road there. Here is the inimitable tracking team. So let's have just a quick chat with them and we'll see where they would like us to go and follow up. Here comes Scott now. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Very good, how are you?
All right.
Good. Morning, everyone. Again.
There we go.
Hello, Wium.
Yeah. What's up?
So, we have done the cut line.
Yeah.
To where you saw us turn around on Cheetah cut line there and said, well, no tracks coming out there. So, we're not sure. It looks like their tracks could be heading back in the direction they came from.
Leaving
to be sure.
This
So we're still just going to fish around here and make sure they haven't gone this way. And then take it from there.
Okay, we'll do Gwaripan Road again and just stay out of your way, but I wasn't watching the road carefully along Hippo Pools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So maybe, what do you want to do, Hippo Pools?
I'm just going to walk here quickly just to make sure the ground's so hard at the moment that it's really tricky to see tracks unless they're in a very soft spot. So I just want to double check here and then...
I'll do Gwaripan again and then reassess from there.
Okay, very good. Good luck.
All right.
See you later.
There we go. Right, here we go. Now, here we will have a brief look at Jeandré. That's what he looks like. You don't often see him. Behind him, of course, is the great Professor. Good morning, Professor. Are you having a splendid morning?
Great.
Good, good. And somewhere around here is Steph. Steph's a bit like a ninja. He could be within centimeters of us and we wouldn't know. So we just if we do lose signal, it's because we're going to a slightly dodgy area, but we should be okay. And I'm just going to very carefully watch the road for any signs of the Nkahuma pride, or what is left of it. All right, while we do this, which Might become a little boring. The signal's a bit bad. We're going to head across to Jamie. She's back on the vehicle. She'll give you an update, and I'll chat to you a little bit later, hopefully with some good news.
Welcome back. And I went for a long walk through the drainage line to see if I could follow up on where I had who I suspect to be, or what I suspect to be, Shadow's tracks. Now, the one thing I haven't seen anywhere in this area is any sign of Madiba. I haven't seen his tracks while I've been looping around. And of course, it could be that he's been resting up in this block for quite a while, so his tracks coming in might have disappeared in the interim. I've been listening for alarm calls, I've been driving loops, and I took a long walk from Termite Mound to Termite Mound, and then into the drainage line that's off to my right. What I'm relying on now is alarm calls. I'm hoping that if they are on the move, that something will alert us to their presence. It is painstaking, but it is totally worth the effort. You've got to put in the work if you want the sightings. Now, I'm sure that she's in here somewhere. Her tracks haven't come out onto this road. Don't look like they've come out on Wiffel's-Hoek. It's just a matter of working out exactly where she's been hiding. Unfortunately, a drainage line as well as a guari thicket make lots of nice hiding places for sneaky leopards. Ellen sent through a very interesting update, and thank you for that, Ellen. And Ellen, I know, keeps very much on top of the leopards that are around us. She is an expert at knowing who is who and where. Now, Ellen tells me that the Nkora Rangers put up an update that they saw Madiba yesterday, but without specifying a location. And then surely they would have alerted the Sabi Sands. And that is a very good chance that they did, which might explain the lack of tracks in this area. This is where James said he had the last tracks, was around Gowrie Gate. But if the Nkora Rangers did see him, then that might explain things. I haven't heard any updates on the radio, and I didn't yesterday, but I will be in contact with them. So thank you, genuinely thank you for that, Ellen. It's good to have an update, then at least I know what kind of situation I'm dealing with. Maybe we can get hold of them and see if the guys have managed to dart him and give him the vaccine he needs. Obviously, in these situations, time is a little bit of the essence. We want to get it to him as soon as possible. Since we haven't heard anything or requests for help, maybe it could be that he has got it, which is wonderful news for him. I must say that the news from the Nkora Rangers has taken some of the tension away from me, but Sharon, you were wondering what would happen if we didn't find Madiba, and chances are absolutely nothing. The most likely scenario is that it's absolutely fine, and that the dog wasn't rabid, and he should be healthy and happy and in his element somewhere in the bush. But Sharon, don't stress. I think it sounds like he has been found. Either way, it was just entirely precautionary approach. A better safe than sorry situation. And although it is true that it's better to administer that vaccine as soon as possible, and then give him his booster shot 3 weeks after that, it takes some time. Even if the dog was rabid, it does take time for the virus to manifest itself and start showing symptoms. At that point it's too late, but you've got a week or two that maybe you can play with. I'm not too worried. I think he's absolutely fine. I just want to see for myself, just to see how he's feeling after all of this drama that he accidentally caused. Shame, completely innocently. He obviously didn't mean to, but it happened. Try and get you a view of this impala. If I get any closer, he's going to stop what he's doing. And he was being highly entertaining. Where-ish. Oh, I think he's going to walk away. He was scratching his head on the tree. But he's finished now. He's obviously got whatever was causing the itch and disappeared off. Now let's continue our search. Where to go next? It's all quiet, there's no alarm calls. I've walked the drainage line, I've walked the block. I can still hear go away birds calling at the dam. Oh, awesome. Where'd she go? No, hold on, let's see. Here's my binoculars. Yeah. Very well spotted, Bryan. And that distinctive flash of white tells us immediately that it's a fish eagle. We're not too far from Sydney's dam, and that's probably where he came from. But of course, being birds of prey, you could well be scouting for things other than fish. So although they do predominantly prey on things like catfish. Oh, awesome. That is such an archetype or typical African sound. I really, really love that call. I also find it completely impossible to imitate. I have tried. Now he's soaring on a hot air current, so a thermal current, just to reduce any energy that he has to expend staying in the air. But he could well be looking for prey other than fish. Something like rodents or snakes are also within their realm of possibilities. And they are big birds, they are big eagles. So they are capable of taking down fairly large prey. Even something like a scrub hare could potentially be a meal for a fish eagle if they got the angle right. I think he might be making his way back to the dam. It could be either one of the two that nests close to the Djuma Dam, or it could be one somewhere from Sydney's dam. Really, really cool to see. They are territorial, so the mated pairs will defend the area that they are in. And their territory size will depend on the type of territory. So in terms of riverfront, which is perfect for them, that's where they will have the smallest territories because that's the most contested territorial area. Ah, our kudus have found us again. Going to approach nice and slowly so that we don't spook them in any way. Need that little bit of momentum. It's awesome to see these two males together, both of whom are in their primes. And Gilly was updating me on some information that James has told viewers, that you can age the kudu by their horns. and that you look at the tips, and if they're upward and outward facing, then they are in their prime. If they are inward facing, then they are still a little bit younger. And that's certainly the case. You also look at the number of twirls that they have. So these two, Zeus and then the one with these slightly closer together horns, those will be easily over 5 years old. You can also start to look at the white tips that very mature kudu bulls start to get on the top of their horns. I'm going to shuffle forward a little bit because they are in thick bush. Now, it's difficult with kudu. You can't be completely bound by a set of rules in terms of aging them. So with Zeus's horns, as spread out as they are and the tips pointing right out, it doesn't necessarily mean he's past his prime in terms of age. I think he is right there. I drove past him when I was tracking earlier, and he is absolutely enormous, but he does seem to be really fit and healthy. So I'd say that it's not necessarily the case that if you have them right outward facing and pointing with the ivory tips, that they are past their prime. It's when you start to see them losing condition. Hello, beautiful. This one is slightly younger. Put it at maybe 4 or 5 years old. But definitely starting to develop a beautiful set of horns. Look how green it is. Nibbling on what I think from this angle looks like a brackthorn or a splendid thorn. It gets that very, very green color, and I swear I can see a difference in the color of the bush from yesterday to today. It's almost like the green has popped up overnight. I hate to distract us from the kudu, and I hope they don't stop doing it. If there were two impala, I could hear them clashing off to my left. They're play fighting, they're full of high spirits. Let's just see if they carry on doing it. There we go. All of the animals are in high spirits today. The kudu have been play fighting, the impala. I think they're happy that spring has sprung and that there's green and new shoots for them to eat. It must make such a nice change. Just imagine when you've got used to eating that dry brown stuff and struggling to get the nutrients, and all of a sudden there's this fresh green soft food for you to eat. It must be such a pleasure. I'm not sure necessarily if that's humanizing it a little bit too much, but I think it must be nice for them. A relief to know that the dry season is coming to a close. Here we go. Let me shift forward again. Now what does happen, although they have a very strict breeding season in impala, so they will have their time when all of the females go into estrus. That's around May, end of May, beginning of June. Let's see if we can get a nice view. I'm hoping they're going to come towards us. They actually seem to be moving in this direction. Nope, it's not a good view. Let's try and get a little bit of a better view. I just wanted to discuss a little bit about the way that they work. And we are seeing a little bit of action, I've noticed, with the impala males. They're still causing trouble, making their grunting, rutting sounds. Let's see if we can get a bit closer. they breed in May. That's their main breeding time. End of May, beginning of June is when the impala ewes come into estrus. And then after that, a month or two later, those ewes that didn't get pregnant will enter a second estrus cycle. So there'll be a short later rut for a week or two. And then what we're going to start seeing fairly soon is as the females, the pregnant females, as their hormones levels start to rise before they get to the point of giving birth, then you get what's known as a false rut. So the males get a little bit confused by all of the hormone scents flying around, and they start sort of battling with each other. Their testosterone levels go up a little bit. And that's just a false rut just before the nyala ewes give birth. And that will be towards the end of November, although I've seen some rather large looking ladies already. There's none here, this is just a bachelor herd. Thomas has made an interesting comparison while we look at these delicate, beautifully designed antelope, that the pronghorn in America is thought to be related to African species of antelope, and specifically or close to the impala. And that's a very interesting point, and it's got two matters. From what I know about pronghorns, I think they have the greatest endurance of any of the antelope runners, or the deer and antelope runners. So they can maintain very, very high speeds for a very long time. And that, to me, in terms of relation to other antelope in Africa, would put me in mind of something like a tsessebe or a hartebeest rather than an impala. Those are the antelope we associate with great endurance and speed. But it could well be that the pronghorns are more closely related to impala. Now, impala are in their own separate tribe. The antelopes are not divided into families, but they are divided into tribes. And the impala have their own. And the name of it has just gone out of my head. Desperately trying to think. It starts with an A. Somewhere in there. I honestly cannot remember, but that could well be, Thomas. I'd have to look into it more closely. But I do know of the pronghorn, and I believe it is famed for its endurance. Go away, bird is calling again. They don't sound terribly frantic. I'm just sitting listening, trying to work out if, and hoping that maybe it might be that leopard, that female leopard coming back out. I really suspect that it is shadow, but again, it's an assumption. But I'm going to loop back down that way and just see if that great go-away bird has spotted something that we haven't. Hopefully something with spots. Sorry, Bryan, you okay? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about young Madiba and the prospect of him being darted for that anti-rabies vaccine. I'm going to have to do this descent fairly carefully. Just to avoid hitting the tow hitch on our way down. Now, Jennifer, you were wondering how they were planning to look after Madiba and protect him from other predators if he was groggy from a dart. Now, in this particular case, the dart that he is getting isn't going to have any anesthetic in it at all. So they're not looking to put him under sedation in any way. All it is a vaccine, a dart that goes in and immediately plunges the vaccine as soon on impact, plunges the anti-rabies vaccine into the underneath the skin and then drops out. So it doesn't have any ill effects. He will get a fright, he will jump a bit, but it is for his own good. There the go-away birds. They don't look terribly distressed though. That's what I've been hearing. But they've stopped calling, they've stopped alarm calling. Sharon was worried about what would happen if we don't find Madiba in time. But Georgianne in Illinois has shared that in the US you have 7 days to get the vaccine after exposure to rabies. And I'm sure it works in a very similar way here, that we have about a week to play with. But we will know by tomorrow, I would say, whether or not that dog has tested positive for rabies, and we will, of course, let you know as soon as we do. I'd love to also get hold of those in coral ranges and just find out exactly where it was that they saw this little leopard. The go-away birds are not sharing their secrets. They've gone quiet once again. And the temperature difference out here is astronomical. It's gone from, 12 degrees this morning. It's probably around 25, 26, possibly even higher in the sun. It's amazing how fast it starts to get warm at this time of year. And I really genuinely think that this is my favorite time of year to be in the bush. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I think for me this is the best time. It's green, but there's still not too much plant cover, so you can see deep into the bush. There's the prospect of babies, the birds are all coming back. It really is an awesome time to be out and about in this area. James has been tracking lions around Buffelshoek Dam, which is very, very interesting. And I'm sure you're wondering how he's getting on. So for now, let's head across to James, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
3, 2, 1. Hello everybody, welcome to Wendy. Sorry about my saying 3, 2, 1. That's not a normal thing for somebody to say, of course, and it relates entirely to the fact that Wium cannot hear the of Mickey Austin coming live, so I have to count him in as Mickey counts me in. It's all rather complicated and utterly irrelevant to your lives, so I'm sorry for telling you about it. Anyway, there it is. Now, what we're looking at is a white-backed vulture circling above a bateleur. Now, were they to start diving for the floor, I would immediately assume that the Nkahuma pride had murdered some hapless herbivore in the vicinity, but I think what they're doing, especially as the day just starts to heat up, around this sort of 8:30ish time, they will start to fly on the thermals, because the thermals will start to rise up, and that's what that vulture's doing. Isn't it beautiful the way it flies? A gentle, peaceful floating. And I tell you what, if you ever are in need of some peace, to lie in the midday in a place like Africa here where we are, and watch those vultures flying high, 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 sometimes so high that just a tiny little spot, to watch that happen is the most, I find it tremendous soul food for myself. They're also, I don't know if you can hear it. You hear that?
Yeah.
That's an eagle calling. It could well be those bateleurs actually calling at each other. I don't know if you heard that. Beautiful bateleur. Now they will of course be calling at each other if that is them. I think it is. I'm going to just quickly play the song of the bateleur on my bird application. Wonderful technology these days. And while I do that, while I look for it, Asad, you want to know how do we keep a track of the birds that are endangered and what do we do about it? Asad, there are various groups in South Africa that look after birds. BirdLife South Africa keeps track of them. There are lots of amateur ornithologists who make detailed notes on all the birds they see. The Bird Atlas Project, the Percy Fitzpatrick Institute at the University of Cape Town, and there are a number of other organizations that look after bird numbers and monitor them and do a lot of research into them. Endangered Wildlife Trust, all of whom keep tabs on the birds that are endangered, and we know their numbers are going up and down because of the very detailed records that people keep. Right, now here's the bateleur call. Oh no, my phone is on silent. Ooh. Okay, so it wasn't the bateleur calling. I actually initially thought it probably wasn't. I think it's two Wahlberg's eagles calling at each other, and I'll just quickly play that call once you've heard the bateleur. So the bateleur goes, wah! Play it into the microphone for you. Although, there's another call that it makes. It wasn't either of those two calls, so we'll quickly go. Let's just quickly go back to just go to the Wahlbergs, because I think that it was a Wahlberg's eagle that we were hearing. I might be wrong. Here he is. That doesn't sound right either. So maybe it was those bateleurs. That latter one that we heard could well have been the bateleurs. I've got Nikki in my ear saying she thinks it was the bateleurs, and I think she's probably right. What do you think, Wium? Definitely wasn't this.
No, that sounds like Franklin.
Yes, it's not a Franklin though, Wium, it's a Wahlberg's eagle. Never mind, I'll just ignore Wium, please. Okay, so we're going to go with bateleur on that call. Shut up now, Wahlberg. Now back, it would have been impossible to do that without a tape player and a lot of winding of tape and stretching, possibly quite a lot of swearing before you got anything like the sound that we just got quickly off the back end of a very average telephone. So technology really does help us in the wildlife sphere in so many ways. And I know people used to ask me as we were people used to ask me when I was guiding, why don't you just put a radio tracker in these animals and then we would just drive to them? You don't need to worry about trying to track them or anything like that. You could just put a subcutaneous chip in them, have a GPS screen on your car and drive to whatever you wanted to see. Technologically we could do that, I suppose, but it would make for rather I don't know, less than exciting, I think, and less authentic experience here in the wilds. And although the tracking can be tremendously frustrating at times, yes, absolutely, it's so exciting to not know what's coming around the corner, and the skill of tracking, of course, is a wonderful thing. Lovely question about the bird calling. We were listening to the bateleurs calling just now, and Diana, you would like to know, do we have a dawn chorus here that is very loud? Diana, absolutely we do. You say half an hour after dawn or during the dawn. It's probably a bit longer than that, you know. It's probably up to an hour of birds as soon as it gets light. Starts off with the sparrows, and then come the francolins, and then the robins and the crested barbets and a whole lot of other wonderful birds that sing away until the heat starts to build after about 7 o'clock. So yes, we do get a hugely loud and beautiful dawn chorus, especially after it's been rainy and miserable, and when the weather comes back and it's delightful like it was this morning. There's often a very loud and gorgeous chorus that we get. And that will increase as we go towards the wet season, or the middle of the wet season. Such a wonderful time of year, this, such an air of expectancy that fills the atmosphere. Wium, there is a nyala. Let us have a look at it. The nyala ewe or cow, they are the mass at which a cow becomes a ewe. It's one of these strange anomalies of English. So anything below that mass out here is known as a ewe, and anything above it is a cow. And anything nyala sized and below becomes, or you have a nyala bull, and anything smaller than a nyala bull is a ram. Interesting one from Assad, who's clearly had some experience with deer. Now, Assad, you would like to know if any of our antelope lose their horns. It's one of the characteristics of antelope that they do not lose their horns. They are permanent fixtures on an antelope's head, and if they do break off during a fight, or there's an abscess or something and they break off, they don't grow back. So it's a bit like an appendage, they don't grow back. So unlike a deer, which will grow antlers and lose them on a regular basis, that's not the same at all for the bull and ram antelope out here. Thanks for that, Assad. It's a good question, and one that we should probably mention a lot more than we do, because of course many of our viewers come from the Northern Hemisphere, where you do have deer species throughout, from all the way through North America into India, across the reaches of Northern Europe. There are deer species. We don't get any deer in Africa, though, but for those that have been introduced here. So there are populations of fallow deer that occur around the place. Definitely not in a place like the Kruger Park. They would be removed forthwith should they ever arrive here. Certainly where my father lives, my parents live near Port Elizabeth, where we had a question today. There's a golf course nearby at a little place called Port Alfred, and on that golf course they have a huge plethora of wonderful wildlife, but they do also have fallow deer, and they're quite common in the Eastern Cape on some of the small sort of privately owned game reserves. But they're introduced from Europe. The heat is now starting to build, and I think it's going to be a pretty hot day. Sorry about that. Now, as we close off with some beautiful elephants, well, I think they were beautiful buffalo. Wium is just rolling his eyes heavenward as I use the term beautiful, prefix or prefix the word buffalo with beautiful.
I never dispute their beauty. It's their level of activity.
Okay, it's the level of activity that's the problem. Thank you for clearing that up, yeah. Laura, you want to know if I've been to the pump house to check out the sausage tree. Now, for those of you who don't know, I was asked if we got sausage trees the other day by a viewer in this area. I categorically said we do not get sausage trees in this area. We had various people from Finland, Raisa I think it was, and Jeffrey from Texas, who then came up and said, well, no, you do get them there, and they pointed out two specific spots where they know that sausage trees exist. They have not been here, and yet they knew where the sausage trees were. Laura, I then did go to the pump house. I actually can't find the sausage tree. I found one that could be a sausage tree, but it doesn't have any leaves on it yet. So I'm waiting for them to come. I'm very sure that it is the sausage tree, so I have seen it. But it doesn't have its beautiful red flowers yet, or any of its nice long red leaves, and certainly none of its slightly none of its fruit pods that have given it some of its traditional uses. And so on that note, I'm going to bid you a fond farewell with a word of thanks to Wium, who has now taken off his winter woolies and is now dressed very bush chic in his bush shirt and bush pants and boots. I suppose they're more sort of mining boots than they are bush boots, and a hat, like I say, older than Methuselah. And a big thank you to Nikki and Jessica in the final control, who have been operating the dials and twiddling the knobs. Thank you to Eugene in his tin hut somewhere below the Gari repeater. And a big thank you to young Jamie, and filming her, Bryan is filming her, the enormous Bryan Joubert. On that note, we will see you this afternoon, probably in a very hot state, and hopefully with some luck with the lions. Bye-bye, keep safe and keep happy wherever you are. See you later.
So, welcome back, and an exciting morning it has been with those incredible kudu, but I'm still desperate to find out exactly what's happening with young Madiba, so I will be following up on him this afternoon just to see if we can get an update on how he's doing. And I know that all of you as the viewers are also keen to see and hear from him, or hear about him, and if he's feeling healthy and if he's recovered from his ordeal with the dog. Now, I'd just like to say a big thank you as well from Scotty, and I think it was Jeandré on camera with him this morning. So Scott and Jeandré and Steph, who were out on bushwalk. It's great that we've been able to get these bushwalks up and running. It's very, very exciting. And a big thank you to Bryan for all of his hard work. Now, Nikki and Jess in FC, a thank you to you, and Eugene for all of his incredibly hard work. And last but not least, a huge thank you to you, the viewers. We will catch up with you on the Sunset Safari. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and see you a little bit later.